sincerest gratitude to all of you for so kindly taking your very, very precious time to be with us today. I was given the subject to speak on search for our lost love. The most incredible discovery of my life was a simple truth. That all of our desires, with their countless longings, gratifications, and frustrations, have a single origin. Forgetfulness of a love that is dormant within our hearts. Finding that love is our greatest need because it brings true fulfillment, and that love can empower us to be instruments of a positive change within this world beyond our imagination. Some years ago, I met with Mother Teresa in Calcutta. She told me that the greatest problem in the world is hunger. Not hunger of the belly, but hunger of the heart. People are lonely. People are emotionally starving and trying to fill it with so many other things. But the only thing that could nourish the heart is love for God. She told me that she knew some of the wealthiest people in the world: New York, London, Sydney, Los Angeles. She saw starving people. And the greatest service, the greatest welfare activity one can do in this world is to feed that hunger of the heart with God's love. But we have to have pure motivations in order to do so. We mistake temporary pleasures to be love. This mistaking of the temporary sensations of the world lies at the very core of the human condition. These flickering sensations, they are like a mirage. A person who is in the desert is searching desperately for an oasis of water. But in that desperation, due to longing and hopefulness, sometimes mirages appear. It appears that that mirage will quench our thirst, but all we get is a mouthful of hot sand in the end. So what is real love? In order to understand that, we have to understand who we really are. This body is like a vehicle. It's matter. The eyes don't see, the ears don't hear, the nose doesn't smell, the tongue doesn't taste, and the flesh does not feel. It is you and me that are seeing through our eyes and experiencing life through the senses. The body is compared to a chariot. The mind is compared to the reins, and the senses are the horses. The intelligence is supposed to be directing according to the passenger, the Atma or the soul. This is the basic teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. That we are not the body, we are not the mind, but we are the living force that animates. And that living force is of a spiritual nature. Its potential is to love, and its need is to be loved. Spiritual love is what we're all searching for. Actually, all the progress of civilization through millenniums is simply in search of that love. Science, technology, entertainment, family life, art, music, business, economics. We're all searching for that one thing, what the heart needs, to love God and to feel God's love. Lord Chaitanya prayed, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajja Kabunoi Sravanadi Sudichiti Koriye Udoi. That love is dormant within the heart of every living being. Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. Our natural position is that we are the eternal servants of God. This is a universal principle. In the Bible, Jesus speaks, what is the use if you gain the whole world if you lose your eternal soul? And the first great commandment is to love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. And the natural consequence of such love of God is to love your neighbor as yourself. How is that? How is it that loving the center, God, the center of all existence, enables us to spontaneously love every living being? The Gita tells, Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Because every living being is a part of God. Just like every ray emanating from the sun is a part of the sun. When we discover the love of God that is within our own hearts, then we see an inseparable part of God in every living being's heart. Male or female, black, white, red, yellow, or brown. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Parsi, Jain, Sikh, Pakistani, Indian, Israeli, Palestinian. These are all temporary bodily designations. They're ever changing. They're like clothes on the body. But when we actually understand our own soul and our own relationship with God, we can identify the soul in every living being and see their relationship with God. Then instead of hatred, there's love, there's compassion. It's the fundamental greatest need in the world. Everyone is searching for this lost love. And when we recognize what we're really looking for, then the real journey of human life begins. Because we are a part of God. And we have lost that connection with God. We are searching for that relationship. But Krishna, who is the complete whole, the supreme and absolute truth, he comes to this world to search for his lost lovers, us. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmajam shrijamyaham. Krishna tells us in the Gita, whenever and wherever there's a rise in irreligion, and when there's a decline in true religious principles, I descend to this world. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chuduskritam. Why does the Lord come to this world again and again and again? In the Western scriptures, there is the messiahs, there is the prophets, and in the Vedic scriptures, there is accounts that encompass millenniums and millenniums of different avatars of the Lord coming according to time, place, and the people of that environment to essentially give the same message, that we have forgotten the lost love for God that was within us. And because of that, we suffer. And we have a propensity to mistreat others. Why? All of these great avatars is the supreme lover coming to this world to search for his lost servants. That is our great hope. Sanatana Goswami in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he explains how one day Krishna with the gopas and the cows were returning from the forests of Vrindavan to his home. On the way, a soul that had just attained spiritual perfection appeared in the cowherd pasture as a beautiful little cowherd boy. When Krishna saw him, he ran to him and embraced him. And in the ecstasy of love, both Krishna and the new coming cowherd boy, they both fainted in ecstasy. All the gopas, they were very much astonished. Who is this boy? And why is Krishna laying on the ground in an unconscious state? So Balaram approached Krishna and brought him back to consciousness by singing sweet words and fanning him. And then Krishna spoke to this new cowherd boy. He said, "You left me long, long ago. You forgot me, but I never forgot you. Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, you tried to enjoy the material world. But I was always in your heart, waiting for you to turn to me. You suffered storms, you suffered diseases, you suffered broken hearts. Sometimes you enjoyed wealth, prosperity, high education, but eventually it was all taken away. Didn't you feel separation from me as I felt separation for you at every minute? And then finally you turned to me and you gave your life to me. And I saw how difficult it was in this material world for you to turn to me and be faithful. You were ridiculed, you were persecuted, you were criticized. Sometimes you had to beg. But I was always with you, there to protect you. And now, finally, you have returned home. I welcome you. Then Krishna brought that cowherd boy to his own house and shared prasad with him. You see, although the absolute truth is perfect and complete, Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam, he is Atma Rama, which means he's completely satisfied in and of himself. He's not in need of anything. He's Akila Rasamrita Murti. He's the very embodiment, the storehouse of all loving emotions. But this is what the absolute truth is explained to be in our Vedic literatures. Although he's full and complete and ever fully satisfied, the perfection of his love is he feels pain of separation to see any one of his children suffering in forgetfulness of him. However small and insignificant we may think we are, Krishna is feeling separation from us. But he will not interfere with our free will, because love cannot be dictated. Love cannot be forced. Love has to be an expression of our free will to actually satisfy us. So for you and for me, and for every living entity in this world, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Krishna comes in various incarnations. He sends his messengers just to remind us of what we have forgotten. What selfless love, the origin of all love, Krishna is. We forget him, but he never forgets us. Vedaham samatitani varatamanani charjuna bhavashani chabutani mam tu vedana kaschana. Krishna tells that I know everything that has happened in the past. I know everything that's happening now and all that is yet to come. And I know intimately every living being. That is the greatness of God. He knows the desires. He knows the enjoyments and the sufferings. He knows the obstacles facing every insect, beast, or human being on the earth, every fish in the sea and every bird in the sky, in every planet of every universe and beyond. He's within our hearts, just waiting for us to turn to him. And he's coming again and again just to try to remind us. That is our hope. Such a loving guardian. He's always waiting for us. The cowherd boys of Vrindavan, They understood Krishna's love. Therefore, they were totally fearless. When the great Asura Aga opened his mouth in the form of a massive snake, the Gopas, some of them thought it was some sort of an ornament in Vrindavan, just to make their play more exciting. But others said, no, can't you smell his breath? This is a gigantic snake that's come to kill us. And they all smiled, clapped their hands, and said, well, let's go inside his mouth. Krishna will protect us. And they were smiling and running right inside this giant serpent's mouth. Now, for you and me, if one little tiny serpent this big opens his mouth, we become fearful and run away. But Aga was 8 miles long. And his mouth was like reaching the clouds. And his eyes were burning with anger and lust. They just ran in, clapping, smiling. And they looked at Krishna. We know you'll save us. And it is explained that Krishna, he was thinking, what am I going to do now? They went inside his mouth. How could I kill the snake without hurting my friends? Because they're inside of him. And so he made a plan. And he went inside. And you know the story. He expanded himself. And ultimately, he gave Aghasura a place in the spiritual world. And his friends, they were actually dead. He glanced upon them, brought them back to life, and they came out of his mouth and said, Krishna, let's eat prasad together, we're hungry. This is the spiritual world. This is the liberated state, where there is this complete faith and hope, complete realization in the care and the love for God. And Krishna gives us that when we open our hearts to receive it. To connect, to connect to that divine presence within ourself and within everything that exists. Cannot be done with our senses. No matter how good we make microscopes or telescopes, or our intelligence, no matter how many degrees or books we memorize, or through any of our sciences. Our sciences may be very helpful in dealing with the temporal problems of this world, if they're in the right hands. Otherwise, it could be the cause of the problems. But to actually connect to the divine. All of the great saints and all of the great acharyas throughout time told us the bridge is faith. Not blind faith, but real, substantial faith. Through this faith, we can see, we could hear, we could feel the divine within ourselves, within every other living being, and within everything that exists. And where does that faith come from? It's within our hearts, but it is awakened when we associate with saintly people who have that faith. Time and again, Krishna explains that he manifests within this world, especially through the hearts and the lives of those who love him. Krishna's searching for his lost love, you, and revealing himself through the scriptures and through the saintly people. Therefore it is said, sadhu sangha sarva sastra koi lavamatra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy. Even a moment's association with a person who really loves the divine is more precious than anything else in creation, because it can awaken that hope. Hope in the infinite love of God. It can awaken that faith, which is preliminary to actually follow the paths that God has given us for enlightenment. It is compared, this world and the illusion that covers over us, to a vast ocean. An ocean that has no bottom and has no shores. Let us take an example. If you are in the middle of an ocean, in the darkness of night, do you know which way to go? Through your eyes? But there's a compass in the boat that tells you exactly which direction you should be going. So this material existence is compared to an ocean. Bhavasagara. And the human life is compared to a boat, which actually has the potential to cross over this ocean. And the guru, the saintly people, are like the compass, the captain of the boat. And the teachings of the Vedas or the Holy Scriptures are like the breezes. If we have the right captain, he can teach us how to actually move forward with the help of these breezes of the great teachings. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained that one cannot know God by any amount of study of any amount of scriptures. One cannot know God through performing even the most terrible austerities like fasting or sitting in the sun in the summer or sitting in the Ganges River at Gangotri in the winter. One cannot know God even by giving him huge amounts of charity. All of these things can help us to become more powerful or more pious. But the only way to actually know the truth, Mahabharata and other scriptures confirm it. Mahajano yena katasa panta, to follow in the footsteps of great souls. The compass of life is the example of saintly people. When we have faith in that, that faith gives us the genuine connection. Now, some people think that faith is inferior to what we call science. But every scientist has faith. No one lives even a moment without faith. Even unconsciously. Every time we breathe, there's an unconscious faith in us that by my inhalation, it's going to nourish me with oxygen. Yes? And even the most common things in life. You came here, you had faith, you would arrive. Factually, many people don't arrive. Every time you drive in the car, you have faith that you'll live to your next destination. And the scientists have faith in other scientists and what they had discovered. Yes? At one time, people thought the world was flat. They had faith in their scientists then. Then it was proven that the world was round. So now we have faith in that. How many don't believe he ever existed? He's just mythology. You have faith, but you never saw him. You never touched him. But you have faith in people who saw him, and you have faith in books. So everybody has faith. Science is based on faith also. But to go beyond the limitations of the mind, the intelligence, and the ego, and of course the senses, there has to be a different kind of faith. A faith in the example and the lives of the great souls. This was a very serious turning point in my life. Because some people believed in God and some people said it's all a myth. It's all some sort of a crutch that human beings create just to try to give sense to this chaotic world. But then, looking through history and also looking at the world today, people who were actually seeking saragrahi, this essence of religion or spirituality, the people who made the greatest, most positive changes in this world, people who embodied the deepest, realest compassion, were people who claimed to gain their powers by being instruments of the divine. Are they all liars? Are they all ignorant fools, sentimentalists? Well, if they are, then let's all be like that. And they were in ecstasy. They were intoxicated with love, and they were sharing that love with everyone. But no, they were not liars, and they were not just sentimentalists creating some illusion. Otherwise, they couldn't live the way they lived. Their compassion could not have been the way it was. So the great scriptures and the great histories teach us about great souls. And when we see how they lived, not the people who exploit spirituality for their own egoistic purposes, but the people who actually followed. Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the essence of all the Vedas. And what is Srimad Bhagavatam? It's just telling stories, not only of different avatars of God coming in search of his lost loves, but of saints who on behalf of God are searching for the lost servants of the Lord. This year is the 500th anniversary of Lord Chaitanya's sannyas. Why did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was an avatar of Radha and Krishna, why did he take sannyas? Why did he leave his home to travel in search of his lost children? To invite us to come home And his method was very simple. Just have a little faith in the association of saintly people. Live a moral life and sincerely chant the holy names. I will take you back home. You can awaken that love. You can awaken that lost love within your own heart and find the innermost satisfaction forever. But beyond the destructive powers of time itself is the soul's love. And even greater is to experience God's love, which is always there, but we don't recognize it. We cannot feel it. Lord Chaitanya and Krishna, they taught us that the path is not to deny the world. The two processes of bhoga and tyaga, enjoyment and renunciation, they are both artificial. The natural, fullest, healthiest perception of the world we live in is to see how everything is the energy of the divine. And to utilize everything in a spirit of devotion to the divine. Rupa Goswami explained, to reject anything as material is incomplete renunciation. Because material and spiritual is simply our perception. Spiritual means to see everything in relation to God. Janmadyasya yataha. Everything emanates from the Lord. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. All material and spiritual worlds emanate from me. Krishna explains that this material world is his divine nature. Divine means spiritual. When we forget the relation between a person or a thing with God, then our perception is material. But when we see the connection and reconnect through our consciousness the thing with the source of the thing, then we perceive the spiritual essence of that thing, which is truth, which is reality. It's not that this world is not real. The world is not an illusion. Our perception of the world is illusion, because we do not see it in relation to God. We do not see that it is meant for the pleasure of God. Bhoktaram jagatapasam. Due to the false ego, we're seeing everything in terms of me. I am the center. When we see that Krishna is the center, then we see everything in this world as a beautiful aspect of Krishna. And every situation in this world is an opportunity to express our love for Krishna. And as we make spiritual progress on the path of bhakti, we realize this at every moment. Time is so precious. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days to live. And what did he do in those 7 days? He was the emperor. He could have done anything he wanted, except extend the 7 days. He could have gone on an incredible vacation. Could have gone to the Swiss Alps. Could have gone to anywhere you wanted. Could have had the greatest entertainers in the world dancing and singing and performing for him. But with those 7 days, he searched for saintly people, sadhu sangam, because he understood that to search for saintly people, to be in their company, to hear from them, to learn from them, to be affected by their love for God, is to connect to God. And he spent every moment attentively for those last 7 days for that purpose alone. Time is very precious. The faith, the conviction, the realization and the enthusiasm to really follow a spiritual path, we require that sangam, sadhu sangam. It can help us to overcome all obstacles because it connects us with the inherent love of our heart. Yes, Lord Chaitanya, 500 years ago, this year, he roamed the entire country of India, searching for the lost souls, to invite them back home. And today is the appearance day of Sripad Vallabhacharya, another great avatar of the Lord. He traveled the length and breadth of India. He just had a single cotton dhoti and chadar, unsewn clothing. He traveled from place to place by foot, searching for the forgetful souls to restore their relationship with Krishna. In India today, there are 84 baitaks, which were primary places where he sat and he taught the lesson of pure bhakti. And in our modern times, our beloved Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, how he, on behalf of Krishna, searched for Krishna's lost lovers. We know how Prabhupada, on the Jaladuta, he crossed 2 oceans, 3 continents, no money, no knowing anyone. Whether he was in the Bowery or the Lower East Side of New York, or in the hippie capital of Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. What was he there for? Why did he leave Vrindavan? He left Vrindavan for the same exact reason that Krishna leaves the spiritual world to come here. Compassion. He's an instrument of Krishna's love, searching for the lost souls. And Srila Prabhupada, in that search, he circled the world 12 times. Besides Antarctica, he went to every continent on earth from the age of 70 to 81. Searching, 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 not to take anything, but to give Krishna's love. That is our hope. And Krishna and all these great representatives of Krishna, they have all taught us that Sharanagati, that spirit of surrender, makes everything spiritually potent. Now, for a materialistic person, surrender sounds like a horrible thing. It's like when the Allied forces bombed Berlin and bombed Cologne and just battered Germany, and the Russian army was marching in with millions of soldiers from one direction, and bombs were dropping. The Germans surrendered. And when, those airplanes dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Japanese surrendered. Now, when Krishna says Sarva Dharman Parityajya, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender, it's not like that. Of course. Ultimately, we all surrender to God in the form of death. Krishna says, I am death personified. But nobody likes to surrender to death. What Krishna and all the great saints are talking about, Sharanagati, surrender, it's the most beautiful experience and the most wonderful concept in all creation. It means genuinely offering our love. I am yours. How can I please you? Let me live a vibrant, dynamic life, and let me use all my creative abilities, my intelligence, my wealth, whatever I may have. Let me use it all as an expression of my love for you by helping all others. Not in a selfish way, but in a way of compassion. That is surrender. It's beautiful. And Krishna reciprocates. We just surrender according to our tiny little capacity, and Krishna showers unlimited blessings of his love. Capacity and fortitude to really follow strict spiritual principles. Kali Kale Namarupe Krishna Avatar. The Lord has made it so easy. Just live a pious moral life. Just try to serve without selfishness. Just try to associate with people who will enliven you and inspire you for these virtues. And what else is required? Krishna's appeared within his name. If we chant the name of God sincerely, that is our surrender. Krishna, I'm chanting to be your servant, to please you, to purify my heart so that I can love you and be an instrument of your compassion to the people of this world with whatever I have. Not denying the gifts that God has given us, but using them in devotion. In this spirit, we could realize the highest truths and discover that lost love within ourselves and be fully receptive to Krishna's love for us when we sincerely cry out his holy name.